So in this video, I would like to show you about how to use Lambda functions in Python. So Lambda functions are anonymous functions. So basically, if you need to use them, you can declare a variable. So for example, if I declare a variable a over here, or let's go with a equals, and if I use the keyword lambda, and I don't pass any arguments, I just use the colon, and if I do something like print of hello, for example, and if I just do a, and if I run this program, it's going to print out hello for you. So instead, if you want to pass a name with this, here I'm going to pass an argument for that matter. So here I can declare a variable, so name, and I can do something like hello space and comma name. So if I do this is going to accept the name, and it's going to print out the value of like the name you have entered. So inside this a, we are going to pass a string like Matt, for example. So if we run this program, this is going to print out hello Matt. So you can see that over here. So instead, if you want, you can use some input method, for example, let's define a new variable b equals input of enter your name, for example. So if we do something like this is going to ask for a name, and we can do a of b for that matter. So what this does is this will receive an input from the user and store that value inside this variable b, and that will be passed to this anonymous function as an argument. So this name and this b will be the same. So let's try that. So it's asking for a name, so let's do John, for example. You can see it's displaying hello John. Let me show you one more example. So let's define something like squares, for example. That's a variable, and we can create a lambda function. So lambda, and we can receive like an input. So this is in variable, for example, and after our input, what we need to do is multiply the input with itself. So we are passing invar star invar. So what this does is this will square the value of this variable which we have passed, and we are going to declare a second variable. Let's define a for this case. A equals input of, and we can pass enter a value, for example, and if you want it nicely formatted, you can do a \t, so it will give you a tab spacing. And the next thing is, whenever you receive an input in Python, it's a string. So if you try to multiply this, it's going to break, for example. So if I do something like squares of a for that matter, and if I run the program, it's going to ask us to enter a value. So if I hit J, this is going to give us an error. Now if we do that again, if we pass 5, this is also giving us an error, because by default Python considers its input as strings. So we can bypass this as we can use a try and except block. So users are sometimes they will give you headache, so you should be always ready to handle the errors. So you can do something like a equals int of a for that matter, and if this fails, let's keep it over here, and we can do an except block for in case this fails. So we can do something like print, we can do invalid input. So let's try that in action. So it's asking us to enter a value, so we are going to hit 5, there is something wrong. I need to print the value which is returned by the function. So if I do this again, I pass 5, it's going to give me the output 25. Now instead, if I pass something like A or H for that matter, it's going to give us like a nice error, like invalid input. It's not going to give us the traceback and all the other stuff. So always do like nice error handling if possible. So that's how you use Lambda functions in Python. I hope this one was helpful. I hope you all have a wonderful day.